Well, we're starting our live music a little early this morning. We've moved into the live music studio, Studio A here at WDET. We have an exciting trio of musicians playing ancient instruments that are still used today. Dick Barsamian, an oudist and percussionist from Boston, Joe Zeytoonian, oudist and percussionist from Florida, and from the Motor City, Ara Topouzian here on the Kanun. These are instruments, names we don't hear every day. The Kanun is a descendant of the hammered dulcimer. It's an instrument used throughout many, many cultures in Eastern Europe and Asia. The oud is a very ancient instrument, and we're also going to be asking our musicians to tell us more about these very exciting instruments. They're going to be playing Armenian music this morning. I'm 100% Armenian, but this music is very enjoyable to all of us. And the musicians here are accomplished artists who have over 50 years of experience. Let's hear some music first, and then we'll talk to our trio this morning, Dick Barsamian, Ara Topouzian, and Joe Zeytoonian here on WDET Live. an Oud Duo with an accompaniment there on the Kanun. Dick Barsamian on Oud, he's from Boston. Joe Zeytoonian is here from Florida, also on Oud, and on the Kanun is the person organizing this concert that will take place at Henry Ford Centennial Library Auditorium, Ara Topouzian. Welcome to WDET. Once again, we had you on a few years back, Ara, and you've returned with a couple of new musicians today.
That's right. That's right.
Tell us about the concert coming up this Saturday.
Well, both Joe, Dick, and myself are going to be performing at the Henry Ford Centennial Auditorium. We're calling it the Oud Duo concert, Saturday night at 7:30, and they can call 248-851-9225 for more information on that. But the main purpose for this week is both Joe and Dick are in town doing a recording for my record label, American Recording Productions. So we're in the midst of doing that and having some fun on the way.
That's very exciting. You have several albums out featuring these musicians and others on your label, American Recording. And let's introduce the musicians this morning, our out-of-town guests. Dick Barsamian, you're from Boston. That was a beautiful solo there on the oud. How long have you been playing that instrument, Dick?
Wow, probably about 10 minutes. Actually, it's about a little over 30 years now.
That's very beautiful.
I've picked it up and learned it.
Yes, and tell our listeners at home, how many strings are on an oud?
Traditionally, it's whatever we put on it, but my instrument, excuse me, my instrument has 11 strings, and there's 5 sets of double strings, and a low bass string, which is by itself single.
Is that used as a drone string or as a tonic string, or how is that used?
It is, and we use it in normal playing. I believe years ago, originally, that this tonic note used to be on the bottom, where the high notes are, by itself. And that's all I know. I don't know anything more than that about that note.
Can you strum it for us so we can hear the tuning?
The tuning, I'll call the notes out as I play them, the open strings. The bottom string, the high string is a D string, D note. Then we go to an A. Then we go to a E. The next note would be a B, which is the 4th string. The 5th string is A also. It's an octave from the high A. And the low tonic note is E, which is an octave from the other E.
We also have another oud virtuoso in the studio, Joe Zeytoonian, who's here from Florida. Joe, tell us about your instrument, and it looks quite new. Is that a newly built oud?
Yes, it is. It's probably an upper level student model made in Izmir, Turkey.
That's great. And let's also tell our listeners a little bit about the history of these instruments. The oud goes way back, doesn't it? Right around the 13th century, so?
Oh, I'm sure much earlier than that. That probably the more primitive varieties of this instrument was simply gourds with gut strings stretched across them, and bass, and then it evolved into what has turned out to be not only a folkloric but also a classical instrument.
Is it also considered the predecessor to the modern-day guitar?
For sure. The whole movement of the Islamic Caliphate across North Africa into southern Spain undoubtedly had influence on the shape of the music and the instruments.
And the Kanun, that is similar to the hammered dulcimer and the santur in Indian music, Ara?
Well, it's considered the granddaddy of the piano.
Yes.
And it can be compared to everything: harp, dulcimer, santur, practically everything. And this dates back many centuries too. It's very no one really knows. Depending on the ethnicity that you are, one claims it. So there's really no direct connection to sort of who brought it into the picture first.
Well, he's playing it. The instrument is on Ara's lap, and it looks much like a large auto harp or a zither. Can you give our listeners a quick demonstration of the
I'd be happy
of the Kanun?
I'd be happy
Let's
to.
hear the tuning there on all the strings. How many strings on the Kanun, Ara?
It depends on the type of instrument that it is. If it's a Turkish kanun, which this is, then there's approximately 75 strings. If it's an Armenian kanun, it could be less than that. If it's an Arabic kanun, it could be more than that. It really depends on the maker, and a lot of these instruments are custom made, so they go to certain octaves, high and low. So it really all depends, but it's there are 3 strings that are stretched across a set of levers, and in Arabic they're called orabs, in Turkish mandals, and in English they're called levers. And 3 strings are stretched across these levers and rest on a bridge, and the bridge itself rests on a membrane and gives a lot of natural reverb on its own. But the 3 strings are tuned as one, but the levers create the different tones, half tones, quarter tones, semitones. Depending on what type of music you're playing, you can adjust accordingly. It's very diversified, and it's quite easy to play. When they first developed the kanun, they didn't use the levers at all, so you had to use the tip of your thumb, and that really showed what a master performer was. I don't play with my thumb.
Okay, well, let's hear another piece of music from our Oud Duo with Ara Topouzian accompanying them on the kanun this morning. here. Very beautiful. The Oud Duo. Actually, a trio this morning. Let's be accurate. Ara Topouzian here on the Kanun, and our two oud virtuosos, Dick Barsamian here from Boston, Joe Zeytoonian from Florida. They'll all be performing at Henry Ford Library Auditorium, located at 16301 East Michigan Avenue in Dearborn.